Texas holds off a late push from their opponents for the second time in as many weeks against TCU this Saturday, winning in 29-26 in Fort Worth. This is the Hordes 24/7 post-game analysis. Thank you so much for being here with us. Let's go ahead and break this game down. Starting off with, this is another game where Texas fans just kind of have to exhale and say, you know what, we won. And that's all that we can ask for. It was not pretty down the stretch for Texas. Back-to-back weeks where the Longhorns have 20-point leads at halftime, and their opponent has stormed back in the second half. Now, with Kansas State, you saw it some in the third quarter and in the fourth. Well, TCU did it all in the fourth quarter. Both teams were scoreless in the third. Horned Frogs outscored the Longhorns 20-3 in the final 15 minutes of this ball game. Secondary for Texas coming into the game was something that I had pointed out continuously last week, saying if they want to win this game, they're going to have to be better. They're going to have to stop playing a little bit softer in coverage and be more aggressive. Well, they did that in the first half. They were fantastic in coverage through the first 30 minutes of play. Now, the back half was when they started to show their similar colors as they have the rest of the season and allow Josh Hoover to throw it a little bit more and allow the TCU wide receivers to get some yards after the catch too. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But Josh Hoover, in the first half, he goes 10 of 16 for 91 yards and an interception. That shows improvement in your secondary. That means you're playing great in coverage. And Texas was doing a good job stopping the run, as they have all season too in that first half, really across the game. In the second half, though, Josh Hoover goes 14 of 20 for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. See, that's that transition again where the Texas secondary is doing what they need to do, but then they just can't adjust. And they allow Josh Hoover to go for over 200 yards and score twice in that second half. So once again, secondary needs to improve and play a full 60 minutes of football. And Texas really as a whole needs to play a full 4-quarter game. Steve Sarkisian said in the postgame that he still felt that Texas hasn't done that. And we're 10 games into the season now. If Texas wants to make a Big 12 title push and maybe try to sneak into the college football playoff, they'll certainly need to show that they can do that. Texas offense, we talked a lot about the defense, but the offense didn't really help them out too much in the second half. They only scored 3 points, as we mentioned, completely lost their groove after scoring 19 in the second quarter alone. Only 151 total yards of offense in the second half. They go 1 of 6 on third downs as well. So some more contributing factors for allowing TCU to come back into this game, as Texas punted the ball 3 times in the second half too. Steve Sarkisian pointed out that tackling was a massive issue for Texas in this game, and that's what allowed TCU's wide receivers to get some yards after the catch in that second half to set themselves up better offensively, and that's why they ended up scoring 20 points. So keep an eye on something like that going forward. Texas's tackling going to have to be better, along with maybe some better coverage in the second half as well. Adonai Mitchell ends up winning this game for Texas on a 3rd and 12 reception where he adjusts his body mid-play and makes a grab falling to the ground. A great throw from Quinn Ewers so that the defender had no chance of even trying to make a play on the ball. That ends up sealing the deal for Texas. It shouldn't have been the play that sealed the deal for Texas, but it ended up being that. And speaking of Quinn Ewers, in his first game back from injury, he goes 22 of 33, 317 yards for a touchdown and an interception. He is very much not 100%. Said in the post-game press conference that he's getting better and better each day, but not 100%. So keep that in the back of your mind with this game. I think that really showed on the interception throw where he just kind of lofted it up there, and it was extremely, extremely underthrown. And TCU comes around and picks it off. And we'll touch some more on that play later because Longhorn fans certainly know what happened after the interception. But for now, we're going to go to the second big piece of big takeaway coming out of this game, and that is, of course, Jonathan Brooks tearing his ACL and missing the rest of the season. Obviously, don't need to say it that it's a massive blow for the Texas offense. So the question now is, where do they go from here on the ground? Obviously, it's going to affect how Steve Sarkisian approaches the run game because you don't have your bell cow guy in there. But you do have C.J. Baxter, and that's the guy who Steve Sarkisian named the starting running back at the start of the season. So now the freshman has an opportunity to show why. Number 1 player in the 2023 class. He's a 5-star running back out of Florida. This was Tashard Choice, number 1 choice in the class. He wanted to have this guy. Now his guy has an opportunity to show some growth, to show some maturity, and to be able to lead this Texas running attack that has been so good with him and Jonathan Brooks. So he's transitioning now from the second guy to the lead guy, and they're going to need him to play better the rest of the season. Now, when you take a look at who comes onto the field after Cedric Baxter and maybe needs a breather, it's a chance for Jaden Blue to come in now and prove himself. People forget that Jaden Blue was at one point in time the number one running back in the country. He elects to forego his senior year, so that bumped him down a little bit. And then injuries and Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson being ahead of him certainly didn't help his case depth chart wise. But now here's his chance. He is now Texas's second option in the run game. When he has had opportunities this year, I think he has flashed very well. He's played very well. He scored his first touchdown of the season against BYU a couple of weeks ago, and now he has a chance to score some more for Texas. They're going to need Cedric Baxter and Jaden Blue to step up. Don't think that needs to be said, but that's who you look for in the run game when you try to get right with your lead guy going out. Going into some quick hitters now before we talk about Iowa State. Number one, another really good day for Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. They both had a sack, combined for 7 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. It's easy to see why they are considered the best tandem at defensive tackle in the nation. Bert Auburn, perfect again on field goals and extra points. They did have that one botched extra point, but that doesn't go on him statistically. It also gave that botched extra point, also gave Texas their first game of the season where they don't score more than 30 points, and they come up just one shy with 29. Texas shows that they can have any guy step up on any given day at skill positions offensively. The last 2 weeks with Malik Murphy is obvious that his favorite guy was Adonai Mitchell. Quinn Ewers comes back, and his favorite guy is Xavier Worthy. He has a huge game, 10 receptions for 137 yards. A lot of that coming in the first half. He had a very quiet second half, but that impact was still certainly helpful for Texas in the first 30 minutes of play. And going back to that interception that Quinn Ewers threw, Jordan Whittington's effort to knock the ball out of TCU defenders' hands after that pick, and Xavier Worthy's hustle he was on the ground. Jordan Scruggs posted a really good picture of this. Xavier Worthy was on the ground with a defender on top of him when that interception was thrown. He gets up, runs back into the play, and then dives headfirst into a pile of humanity to try and recover this football, and he comes away with it. That is a game-changing play in this game for Texas. Steve Sarkisian said it in the postgame, and it's easy to see why back on film. He's certainly right about it. That was a massive momentum play and certainly could have changed the outcome of this game. So tip of the cap to Jordan Whittington and Xavier Worthy there if you're a Texas fan. All right, now let's take a look at Iowa State. The Longhorns heading to Ames on Saturday. They're 6-4 overall, 5-2 in conference play, coming off a 45-13 win over BYU on Saturday in Provo. Texas has lost 3 out of the last 4 games that they've played in Ames, Iowa. We've talked about that a lot coming into the season. I said earlier on the year that this is going to be a sleeper game to watch, and now it certainly looks like it, but it doesn't even seem like a sleeper. It seems like this is going to be a very challenging game for Texas, and honestly, I think it will be. The battle of the number 1 and number 2 defenses in the Big 12. Iowa State, number 1, allowing 329 yards per game. Texas is number 2, allowing 337. This is just going to be an absolute slugfest. It has been the last couple of years under Steve Sarkisian. Obviously, Iowa State in the first year had a big blowout when they had Breece Hall, Brock Purdy, and really an explosive offense. Texas had no answer for them on the road. And then last year, very close. You could say Texas really an Xavier Hutchinson drop away from potentially losing that game at home in Austin. Now, offensively for Iowa State, they're number 92 in total offense. They've lost a lot on that side of the field. Hunter Decker's their quarterback to the gambling scandal, and then guys like Hutchinson going to the draft. They still have Jalen Knoll, who I think is a really good wide receiver and could cause Texas a lot of issues on Saturday, but they're going to need to see some better offensive output, I think, if they want to best this Texas defense and get points on the board. And to wrap things up, like I said, this is not going to be an easy game for Texas whatsoever. That defense, the flyover defense that they run with 3 high safeties, has given Steve Sarkisian a lot of trouble, and really a lot of opposing teams a lot of trouble in the last few years. So interested to see how they approach this game and how much of an impact the run has in this game for Texas if they can get the ball moving. And that transitions perfectly into the questions that remain for this team heading into Saturday. Number 1, of course, what does Texas's run game look like going forward without Jonathan Brooks? Can C.J. Baxter be a reliable lead guy for a team with Big 12 championship aspirations as a freshman? Number 2, how has Quinn Ewers' shoulder progressed, and is he healthy enough to continue to play well? He was kept completely clean on Saturday. No sacks, no hits, no pressure. Offensive line did a phenomenal job in pass protection. Can it stay that way, and can he stay healthy enough to make all the throws? Number 3, can Texas's defense win the Longhorns another game? I think that's what it comes down to. If they hold the Iowa State offense to a low number of points, I trust the Texas offense enough to find a way to get some points on the board. Number 4, can Texas find the killer instinct that Steve Sarkisian mentioned in the postgame press conference last week and be able to put teams away, not allow them to come back from 20-point deficits like they have in the last 2 weeks? That's going to be crucial going forward, of course, because you just can't play close games like that, and you have to finish games. You have to put your foot on opposing throats and continue to run up the score and win in dominant fashion to show that you mean business. Number 5, will the Longhorns offense find a way to get first downs and keep the clock running late in the game? That's a big part of sustaining those leads and making sure that opposing teams don't have a chance to come in, picking up those first downs and keeping the opposing offense off of the field. They were not able to do that on Saturday in TCU. And last but not least, what does Texas look like after playing 4 complete quarters? And can they find it on Saturday? Steve Sarkisian said that this team still has not played a full 4 quarters of good football yet. And we don't know if they will this season. Is Saturday going to be a case where they do and they really come out and make you say, okay, so that's what Texas looked like when they played full 60 minutes of football? We will find out this Saturday at 7 p.m. Central in Jack Trice Stadium. Stick with us here on the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel. Throughout the week, we'll have great content coming your way. As always, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you're the first to know when new content heads your way. Thanks for watching with us today, and for the rest of the Horns 24/7 crew, I'm Tommy Yarrish. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.